we start to see the crumbling away of old institutions, the buckling, if you will, as some of them fall away and some are just transformed or some combination thereof. And again, it can be quite disturbing. I fully understand that, and what we're seeing in many cases right now is a lot of buckling and crumbling away of our political structure, which is changing rapidly. Mr. Trump is a sort of catalyst of that in one way. Mr. Obama was too in his own way, but as I mentioned, and it bears mentioning again, especially for those who've not listened to the show before, but what I've said of Mr. Trump and what I said back when he was campaigning and, during the whole process of, choosing him to be the Republican candidate, is that his style, his approach is akin to what the Native Americans called Heyoka. Heyoka medicine is a medicine that turns everything on its head, where things are done backwards, where humor is quite frequently used in very somber ceremonies, and rude humor too, not not just silly jokes, but toilet type humor would often be used by Heyoka people to shake things up. It was to turn things on their head, to either loosen up that which had become very solidified, or to question, to make people look again at what they're doing, what they believe, what they want in the world, and why they want it. It holds up a mirror. And Heyoka medicine is not easy medicine, and these aren't easy people to deal with. But that's what that medicine is all about, and that's what I believe is going on here, to a large degree. And it's happening quite effectively because it's galvanizing people who would otherwise not have taken action about things that they really care about. And it's made them see that they really care about those things and that they're worth taking action on. So you're seeing, town halls, bursting at the seams with people ready to, express their point of view. And you're seeing, protests on the streets. You're seeing campaigns being launched. It's quite a remarkable time. Quite a remarkable time. All right, well, we're almost halfway through the show, so I guess I better get to our theme here. So we've been talking about new thought, and sometimes it's referred to as higher thought. But the idea of new thought concepts, and they're expressed in different ways in different organizations. But it promotes the idea of infinite intelligence. They sometimes use the G word for God, or sometimes not, but it's the idea of an infinite intelligence that is everywhere, and also the totality of anything that is real. New Thought also promotes the idea that true human selfhood, who we really are, is divine, and divine thought is a force for good that can heal, and that any sickness or ailment originates in the mind. And once you change the mind, you can heal. So New Thought is not there's not one particular set of beliefs, but more general beliefs, and it is not doctrinaire. I mean, there's no doctrine, although different organizations that fall under this banner may have their own doctrines, which we'll talk about when we talk about the Church of Religious Science and all of that. So, look, there's just basic core beliefs that they share. One is that infinite intelligence, or God, if they choose to use the G word, is supreme, universal, everlasting, and that divinity, or this infinite intelligence, dwells within each person, and that all people are spiritual beings. I'm sure you've probably heard the phrase, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Well, that's a very New Thought statement. The highest spiritual principle is loving one another unconditionally and teaching and healing one another. That's the highest spiritual principle. And number 4, our mental states are carried forward into manifestation and become our experience in daily living. Just what I was talking about earlier, how our minds create the world that we live in. And that's now increasingly backed up and verified by quantum physics, where we physically have, scientific experiments that prove how we do that. It's fascinating. Anyway, so I talked last week about the founding of this movement early in the 19th century, and particularly about Mr. Quimby and his beliefs, and how they inspired a young woman by the name of Mary Baker Eddy, who went on to later create the organization called Christian Science. So we were talking about Christian Science a bit. Now Quimby believed in mesmerism, and he believed in the power of the mind to heal, and that's the basis of Mary Baker Eddy's church, which is, as I mentioned, the Church of Religious Science. So, religious science, then, I'm sorry, not religious science. I'm confusing it myself, and I'm here to try to straighten out the confusion. Okay, Christian Science, which was founded by Miss Eddy Baker. She created a system in which sickness was seen as error, mental error. And as it developed, as that belief system developed, it was believed that simply reading Science and Health, which was a magazine that the church put out, would heal them. And that working with doctors and other medical professions interfered with what was true healing. In 1898, Miss Eddy wrote in the New York Sun that in an article called "The Christian World," to the Christian World, that she'd personally healed tuberculosis, diphtheria, and at one visit a cancer that had eaten the flesh of the neck and exposed the jugular vein so that it stood out like a cord. I have physically restored sight to the blind, hearing to the deaf, speech to the dumb, and have made the lame walk. Eddy wrote that her views had derived in part from having witnessed the apparent recovery of patients she had treated with homeopathic remedies so diluted that they were drinking plain water. So she concluded that divine mind was the healer. Well, we've all heard about the placebo effect and how if people who are taking things they believe are medicines that are going to cure them can often create a cure, you know, on their own. So this core belief of how we can heal ourselves, you know, is part of the basis of Christian Science. But again, as different people use these ideas, they create varying dogmas around it and ideas that often detract from or actually become dangerous. And Eddie's beliefs that, even if the idea of holding beliefs about things created the illness, worked against what she was trying to do in a lot of ways. Basically, the Christian Scientists believed that medicine and Christian Science are incompatible. And the reason they're incompatible is that medicine asserts that something needs to be fixed, while Christian Science asserts that spiritual reality is perfect and beliefs to the contrary need to be corrected. So the idea is that you are already perfect and healthy. It's just that you're manifesting symptoms based on illusion. So that's the basis of why the conflict between the medical community and Christian Scientists began. And as it continued, there became more and more, adamancy about not using, doctors at all, or medicine at all, but relying solely on changing your belief. And then there became incidents where it was sort of almost a paranoia that swept through the original founders of this. Eddie started to believe that her former student and business partner, Richard Kennedy, was plotting against her. And she began to expel people, and especially him, from the Christian Science Association for Immorality. Basically, that apparently came out of a quarrel over money. So lawsuits were filed. I think there was tuition fees that weren't paid or something along those lines. And then came this idea of something she called malicious animal magnetism. Basically, it's evil ideas that are aimed against her in particular. And that became an important, aspect of Christian Science. The idea that animal magnetism had a negative side and could be used against people. She believed that her husband had died from malicious animal magnetism. Now, she believes that reality is entirely spiritual and therefore entirely good. She also believed that human beings were affected by a belief in evil, which meant that that belief had power even if it was an illusion.